Friendship ended with Tar. Now Michelle Yeoh is my best friend. Welcome to Emotional Labor. This is the show where we do the discourse so you don't have to. I join you today from the ego zone. This is why I do not give a fuck about the Oscars. I don't care who won. I don't give a shit. I don't want to hear about it. Oscar nominees get a $225,000 valued gift bag, which includes a book which empowers young girls and a 24K carat gold-plated vape selected with Leonardo DiCaprio in mind, which makes sense because we all know he loves young girls. The Oscars is a farce put on by white people, and I don't mean this in a racist way. I just mean it in a statistical way. The voters at the Academy, which sounds ominously like an institution from the Hunger Games, are 94% white, 76% male. Even worse, their average age is 63 years old. It's boomer central. Joe Biden could probably run laps around these guys. They probably form their political beliefs by sending each other poorly cropped memes about pronouns and minions on Facebook, in between their day jobs of being landlords and or colonizers. But it's not just the fault of white people. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's mainly the fault of American white people. About 3/4 of the 3,140 Oscars that have been awarded in its 94 years of blandness have been to Americans. What about that remaining dairy leaf slice? That 1/4? Are there people from the global south? No. Only the inhabitants of Turf Island, France and Italy have managed to get an award count with more than one digit. Maybe I'm generalizing the views of these meatloaf eating peoples. Maybe they're all about championing the narratives and voices of humanity's contributions to the cinematic medium like they claim they are doing. They're surely not restricting themselves to any arbitrary political borders which have shifted immeasurably over the past 94 years. The first woman of colour didn't win an award till 74 years in. That's right, it took until after 9/11 for them to acknowledge a solid 40% of the population globally. Now that we've got to 94 years, we've had another woman of colour win Best Actress, meaning that there is now one black and one Asian woman among the pantheon of women winners who smell like pennies when it rains. Maybe this isn't an Oscars problem. It's unfair to call these Scrooge McDuck-looking Academy voters bigots when they only have a small pool of films to choose from. Maybe people of colour can't be asked to make films. Imagine. Or more likely that there's institutionally racist policies and factors at play in Hollywood in general that are out of the hands of the members of the Academy, most of whom represent institutional powerhouses currently at play in Hollywood. But you know, whatever. They might not be that powerful. Maybe they just happen to be the good ones, yeah? Now, while the Oscars does claim to an extent to represent the artistry of cinema as a whole, if you acknowledge the fact that they're full of shit in this respect, you could make the argument that they're not bigoted, they're just biased towards Americans. They're not bigoted towards minorities. Maybe the American film industry itself is just shit, and the Oscars is a reflection of that. So let's look at American films in general. They currently underrepresent some minority groups and women, but both black people and multiracial people have reached about proportionate representation for their status in the population as compared to Hollywood. Asian Americans are only slightly below parity, with Latino people and Native American people being barely represented at all, only faring better than Middle Eastern and North African people who received not even a single lead role in any film released in American theatres in 2022. Across all ethnic backgrounds, women pull the short straw, consistently being more underrepresented relative to men. There's only been like 3 female director wins, but when it comes to Oscar winners, 90% of all the Oscar wins have gone to white people, which is at odds with the actual film output of Hollywood, which is a mere 56% held by a white majority, making these male aficionados 160% overrepresented in the Oscars relative to the American film industry. So the Oscars is racist even for America, right? At the end of the day, old, white, rich American men, even if you give them every benefit of the doubt imaginable, will still find a way to be racist to their fellow citizens. And when it comes to people of colour in the global south, whose economic material conditions means that it's significantly harder for them to shit out 10 million Ant-Man sequels per calendar month, they definitely do not care about them. The Academy does not give a shit. Only 1 in 10 films released theatrically are American. It's not that many. 90% of humanity's contributions to cinema are not rewarded with this prestige or this funding. It doesn't get the exposure. Everyone pays attention to the Oscars, to American films as a whole, and a party could tell you far more about American cinema than an American could about anything non-American. The next film industry is the British, who make up about 7% of the global film output, even though they're less than 1% of the general population, purely by virtue of being British. I am a Nepo baby. However, immediately after them, we see the cinema juggernauts from the rest of the world, mostly from Asia, China, Japan, Korea, and India. However, less than 0.02% of all the Oscars awarded have gone to people of Asian descent. White people, imagine being underrepresented in the most prestigious award ceremony by minus 1,250%. Why would you as an Asian person, care about the Oscars. I know I don't. Why would you care about the Oscars? There's no point. I do not give a shit. You should not give a shit. And we haven't even touched on the quality of the film. So I would encourage you not to take notice of what the Academy thinks is good. They don't know. It's literally just a retirement home of guys who look like Mitch McConnell. Most of them don't even watch every film that gets nominated. They're voting just based on vibe. You, personally, should have more sway over deciding which film is better than these lot do cumulatively, even if they are so-called industry experts laundering money through Tarantino movies or whatever, if that gives them some sort of insight into the process of making a film, which it doesn't. I think award shows are fun, and it's cool to look back on the past year with some perspective, keeping up with the developing careers of actors, the stories of creative growth attached to people who we've been obsessively following for years online as part of our evil demonic celebrity culture. But I mean nothing. If you decided how you felt about a film by consulting star signs, that would be far more ontologically respectable and gratifying for you as a human being than listening to the Oscars. Look into smaller awards or just explore for yourself without listening to a committee. Google is literally free, and piracy is morally okay according to the Bible. Maybe, possibly, probably, I don't know. Or if you can't pull yourself away from this fandom, which is, and I can't stress this enough, again, a money laundering machine, at least look into money laundering cinema machines from other countries. Or just watch terrible indie films on YouTube. I don't care, you do you get me. And that's been the emotional labor for this week. I love you. Say it back. Don't look away. Next week we're interviewing a hyperpop artist. I'll see you then.
Bossman, what you shout, law? I've come out by green beans, beef and Charlotte.